Semiconductor investors have a very busy week this week as we have TSMC and ASML both reporting earnings, and we do have a lot more updates impacting NVIDIA and the China space that I think you're not going to want to miss. So let's take a closer look in today's episode.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for their subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
All right, so first let's start off with the earnings calendar. ASML and TSMC are both reporting earnings this week. We can see ASML is Wednesday before the market opens, and TSMC is Thursday before the market opens. We are kind of starting earnings season. We do have Netflix on Thursday after the close. I don't think I'm going to cover it here, but if anybody wants some information, just let me know in the comments below. Now, I think TSMC is going to be the one that's going to get the most attention because they talk about AI demand, they talk about consumer demand, they talk about automotive demand, data center demand, and the list goes on and on. So as any form of AI investor, TSMC is going to be a must watch. And in a bit, we're going to look at some of the previews. ASML, though, I am going to kind of look at this. I think maybe more semiconductor niche investors are going to look at ASML, but it does provide a lot of great information on how they're seeing future growth in the supply chain line, which can then be trickled down to the type of demand a lot of these companies are seeing in the near future. So both ASML and TSMC are crucial. We're going to start off with TSMC in today's episode. So TSMC right now sitting at $230. Year to date, the stock is up nearly 14%, but from those April lows, the stock is up nearly 63%. So congratulations. So let's try to understand what is the expectation for TSMC in forms of earnings this quarter. So right now in quarter one, the company gave a guidance of roughly $28.8 billion, but the street consensus is actually closer to $31.7 billion. And the pre-announced numbers are actually closer to $32 billion. So we do know that the company is going to have some record numbers in revenue. It is going to be kind of the original company guidance that they gave. Now, obviously, what we don't know are things like profits, loss statements, any significant forecast on overall guidance. Are they raising guidance? What's happening? Commentary about the AI boom. So even though we already know what their current quarter sales might be around, we don't know anything about their earnings per share and some of the other numbers and things that I mentioned. In forms of consensus in earnings per share, we are expecting somewhere around a 54% year-over-year growth rate. Now, an important metric that we're going to see is we know that the high performance computing segment, which includes AI related silicon, is now the primary revenue driver and expected to account for over 45% of sales. Investors are going to be critical at watching two things. The first thing is, how much demand are we seeing in the AI and high performance computing? And is there a form of a rebound happening in the smartphone business, which is expected to be about 34% of this company's total revenue? So the AI growth engine, we have to make sure that sentiment is still intact. More importantly, we have to also see if the smartphone industry is picking back up, which could be seen very bullish for companies like Apple and Qualcomm. Now, there are 5 areas to watch. Beyond, obviously, the top line number, we're listening for TSMC's earnings for various themes. And this is the themes that I believe can give us bullish sentiments for one, TSMC as a company, but two, the AI market. So first is CoWoS capacity. And CoWoS capacity is a form of advanced packaging that is needed to build AI chips. So they did mention it has the plans to double capacity. Is that still on track? Is it actually increasing because of the crazy demand that we're seeing from NVIDIA, AMD, and the others? The second thing is gross margins. This is more company dependent. Can margins stay near 59 to 60% despite the new fab ramp-up cost in Arizona and some of the financial and forex exchange rates happening with the Taiwanese dollars, right? So kind of expecting how gross margin has changed from their previous guidance and how it's being affected by the acceleration of some of these US fab plants. Now, CapEx, right? We did see CapEx last quarter. They gave us around 40 to 42 billion dollars. Is the company gonna increase this? There's analysts actually expecting that it's gonna be closer to 50 billion dollars by 2027. Capital expenditure is gonna be really critical for companies like ASML, for Lam Research, and any equipment player. Like I mentioned, the smartphone split business will consumer silicon segment finally show signs of recovery after a 2-year slump. That can definitely go well for just the consumer tech in general. So AMD's consumer products, Apple's obviously iPhone industry, Intel's potentially PC industry as well. And the final kind of key thing to watch is currency and tariffs. How is management navigating these US and China trade tensions? And at the moment, I believe it's doing everything really well. What I also want to hear is how is the tariff impacting? Are they seeing any form of pushback or push up of demand? And the great thing is TSMC's management tends to say it how it is, and they kind of give us a lot of great information. Now, the next thing I want to look at is their strategic roadmap. Some recent developments that we've heard compared to their previous earnings. So first, like we saw, those record Q2 sales were released. That confirms the AI boom, setting a high bar for the overall AI industry. I want to hear more about that. We're also hearing reports that the U.S. capacity is kind of accelerating the investments of some of the Arizona plants. Would love to hear any updates on that. Then there's also discussions and rumors that the fab in Japan is maybe seeing a bit of delays due to maybe demand or maybe just focusing on the United States plant instead. Some actual response to this or confirmation, and finally update on their next nodes, the 2 nanometers and below, how it continues to lead in this space and kind of lead over Samsung and Intel. So those are recent developments and things we're going to need to get better answers during the earnings call. I believe we are going to see a lot of bullish sentiments for TSMC. Now, that doesn't mean the stock is going to go up. Obviously, the market could be expecting it, but I expect to hear a lot of bullish sentiments, especially for the AI market. Next, we have ASML. So ASML sitting at $801 year to date. The stock is up roughly 15%, and from its overall April lows, the stock is up over 34%. Now, with ASML, there are a few things that we're going to look at. First is bookings trajectory. Is there a road to recovery? Right? We did see that Q4 2024 bookings were closer to 7.1 billion euros. Now, if we move on to this Q1, those bookings dropped to nearly $4 billion, a little bit below. The bullish case scenarios, we're getting closer to 6 billion euros in bookings for Q2. Or the bearish case, it's actually closer to the 4 billion. So if we get closer to the bullish case, that could be an extremely strong growth driver for the stock price. Something below $4 billion could create a lot of negative sentiment. The second thing is we continue to see export controls are expected to significantly reduce China's share of ASML's revenue. And in 2024, it was around 36% of total revenue. In 2025, we're hearing guidance being closer to 20%. Understanding if this is still the case, if actually export restrictions might be pushing this even lower and lower, could create a form of negative sentiment. Now, in forms of revenue is not that big of a driver, in my opinion, for ASML. The street has it somewhere around 7.9 billion at the midpoint, where ASML has closer to 7.5 billion at midpoint. To us and to investors, I think bookings is going to be a crucial number. What's also going to be crucial is to maintain a 50 plus gross margin during this time. The guidance low end is 50, the high end is 53. So we want to make sure that that's not happening. If it goes below 50, it could create some massive pressure for the stock selling off. Now, a key theme is kind of the high NA EUV ramp. This is kind of the new technology that ASML's equipment is. We do know that Intel plans adoption for its 14A process node and has 5 high NA machines delivered for trials. We still don't have too much signal from TSMC, so we would love to see more customer adoption about this market. So that's going to be really crucial to look at for kind of the EUV and ramp up of their high NA. Now, obviously, in forms of how could the quarter surprise. In a potential positive, we start to see strong order rebookings. Anything over 6 billion euros would be amazing. Gross margins close to or above 53 also show some strong growth, and the high A&A revenue, if we start to see more validation in this product, could be very bullish. Now, some potential negative is bookings stay below $4 billion. That could be seen very, very scary for the overall semiconductor equipment industry. And more importantly, if they kind of start to see a widened shipments, maybe being pushed out to the second half of this year or maybe early next year, could challenge some of the goals that ASML has for the quarter or for the year. So those are things to definitely keep an eye out. Again, I believe the long-term potential for ASML is still there. Now, the final topic I want to take a closer look at is NVIDIA. So NVIDIA, we have heard a lot of reports that this company is bringing a new chip to China. Also, we do know that NVIDIA CEO is actually expected to do a trip to China, and I believe he's expected to talk to kind of like a press release on July 16th. So that is going to be something that's going to be watched by a lot of players, especially U.S. officials, because now NVIDIA being the number one company in the world, you're going to continue to have your eyes. So there are a lot of reports. We see that U.S. senators warned NVIDIA CEO about a coming China trip. More importantly, we're also seeing that there is a lot of demand happening for NVIDIA's next generation B30 AI chip. And we do see some reports here from pretty good semiconductor researcher in the X platform, and they mentioned that China's major internet companies, Company A, estimates that the performance of NVIDIA's B30 is approximately 75% that of the H20. Yet they still place orders of hundreds of thousands of units, close to $1 billion of orders in late June, with delivery expected in August. And we continue to see a lot of those. Internet B is expected to order around 300,000 units, and Internet C is detailed, has information remains confidential, but the demand for the B30 is significant. So if these rumors are true, NVIDIA could be having new revenue potential coming in from the Chinese market, which I do believe could be seen as a bullish sentiment for the overall stock. NVIDIA now sitting at a $4 trillion market is insane, but this could definitely be a nice boost in its overall price if we get any updates to that in the August earnings. So the final thing I have here for this is, recently, we have heard reports that that Trump has created in the proposed 30% tariffs to Mexico. A lot of AI servers do come from Mexico right now, for those that are not familiar, but I do believe those AI servers do get bypassed, as a lot of other technology gets bypassed from these tariffs. So at the moment, nothing to worry about, but it is something to keep a closer eye on, as the Mexico market does create a lot of AI server solutions for the United States. So take care, have a good day, and see you all next time.